Feast of St. Michael and all angels. What to do with that? Got me thinking about the early days of my ministry in holy orders when the angel craze erupted. It was the rage in popular media. It's probably not, it doesn't seem as pronounced now, I suppose, but I believe the culture's fascination with angels remains nonetheless. Yes, the bishop's wife and John Travolta's Michael, touched by an angel. That show, you remember that? Have given way to zombies in the theaters and ghosts and vampires on TV, but angels remain popular nonetheless. Over the years, in fact, a host of popular magazines, Red Book, Ladies' Home Journal, Maclean's, you name it, have carried articles about angels. A piece in one news magazine a few years back announced, "Angels are appearing everywhere in America." Talked about how people believe they've seen angels. I think it was 13% of people. And the article mentioned workshops that aim to help people release their inner angels. And it reported on angel boutiques and seminars, all sorts of stuff. Not too long ago, I surveyed the virtual bookshelves on Amazon and some bookshelves in mom-and-pop bookstores and found titles such as those providing step-by-step instructions about how you can hear your angels or enlist them in the healing or the success that you so desperately desire. Now I'm going to make a confession that may surprise some of you. I'm not really all that cynical about this fascination with angel mania. In fact, I believe it's related to a healthy human instinct, one that perhaps was suppressed in modern society for far too long. We human beings possess a yearning for something that our senses do not readily perceive. In fact, I believe we need the discovery, we yearn for the discovery of, or the unveiling of that which is not ready at hand, something that comes from beyond. And indeed, I believe it's hardwired into us as much as our need to eat and breathe. In fact, I suspect many, if not most of you, can relate to the impulse. It may be one reason why you're here today. When a congregation gathers, its members might do so for social connection, for comfort and support, perhaps even for fun. All sorts of motivations, conscious or not, gather people. But I suspect we also gather to brush up against something that comes to us from beyond. A word, an experience perhaps, a sense of the holy. Our instincts tell us that while we may be of this world, we're not just of this world. And we long to be complete by connecting with that which is from beyond. In one of his essays called A Message in a Bottle, the novelist Walker Percy imagines a man who is a castaway on an island. The man has washed up onto this beautiful tropical island. He now no longer remembers the shipwreck, no longer remembers where he came from. He simply knows that he's washed up on the shore. He has found on the island a really ideal and wonderful society. There's a great university, good business. He settles down, he gets married. He becomes a productive member of the island society. But he's always aware that he's a castaway. So he starts taking up the habit of walking every morning on the beach. And every now and then a bottle washes up from who knows where, a distant shore perhaps. A bottle washes up and it has a message inside of it. And finally, it's the messages themselves that make him aware of his homesickness, says Percy. His homesickness for another place, another time, another identity. Finally, he gathers with others who understand themselves to be castaways. They meet every week on the beach, hoping for a message to come from a distant shore. We human beings naturally yearn for that which our senses do not readily perceive, for something that comes from beyond ourselves. There's no mystery, then, to the appetite behind the ongoing interest in angels. The problem, however, is the diet that aims to feed it. Because ultimately, that diet leaves our spiritual bellies rumbling. In their modern incarnation, these mighty messengers, more often than not, have been depicted as bite-sized beings that are easily digested. I'm convinced there's a manifest link, in fact, between the interest in angels and the self-help movement that's still with us. They're available to everyone like aspirin. Get in touch with your inner angel. Become a better person. Angels become our personal tutors, our own Dr. Phils. Yet this self-concerned spin on angels only results in a form of spiritual malnutrition, leaving us craving for more. The scriptures dog-eared for today's feast, the feast of St. Michael and all angels, the passages we just proclaimed moments ago, serve as something of a corrective for us. Angels, it seems, do not turn up at the beck and call of books instructing us to tap into our angelic sources. Instead, they appear as a result of the pure will of God and for no other cause. In the Bible, when angels show up, they're never the focus. They're a clear sign that God is about to show up, that God is about to pronounce or fulfill a purpose, that God is about to act to set people free. Cast your mind's eye back on this morning's reading from Genesis. Isaac has dispatched Jacob to find himself a wife in Haran. But Jacob has only one eye out, looking out for a mate. He's got the other eye cast back over his shoulder in case big brother Esau is chasing him down because Jacob had stolen his birthright from him. And on the way, Jacob, who will be given the name Israel, Jacob stops in an unlikely place to bunk down for the night. And there he dreams of angels ascending and descending between earth and heaven. The scene is reminiscent of a ziggurat, one on which there was a stairway or a ladder to the top where the deity was believed to dwell. So the angels ascending and descending indicate or suggest contact with God. Jacob unexpectedly receives the promise for which he so surely longed, that God is present with him, that God will watch over him wherever he is. Implicit, too, is the promise of a people whom Jacob will father, the promise of a rich heritage that will bear witness to God, and in short, the angels signal the presence and promise and action of God. Now, fast forward to the Gospel from John. Jesus invites Philip to follow him, and in an overflow of evangelistic fervor, Philip announces to Nathanael, "We have found the promised one." Nathanael comes to check out this rabbi from Nazareth, and Jesus says, "Here's a true Israelite," which is to say, here is one who sees God. And Nathanael is astounded, so much so that he blurts out that Jesus is the Messiah. "Stick around," says Jesus. "You ain't seen nothing yet. You will see angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man." You will see angels ascend and descend on the Son of Man. Do you know what he's saying? Jesus is saying that he is the ladder between heaven and earth. And he assures his young novice that he will witness nothing less than the meeting of God with people. The meeting of God with people. Us. That's what we yearn for. And that is what the angels signal and bear witness to. In one of those news magazines I mentioned before, A Catholic theologian is quoted as saying, rather acerbically, if people want to get in touch with their angels, they'd be a lot better off working in a soup kitchen. That's very apt, and that's very biblical. And it's a good clue as to how we satiate that spiritual appetite of ours. If we want to experience the holy, then we need to be where the angels are. And where they are is where the Son of Man is. That includes worship, right here, to be sure. In so many ways, the gathering around the tables of word and sacrament is the place par excellence to encounter the presence of the risen Christ, to eat together at God's dinner party in God's kingdom. The victory celebration is roaring in heaven all the time, with all of the angels and archangels and all the company of heaven. And they're singing in harmony along with us, "Holy, holy, holy, God of power and might. Heaven and earth are full of your glory." And indeed, every once in a while, that party in heaven breaks through to our time and space. And by the way, that's what we call Sunday worship. Yes, in so many ways, including today, perhaps especially today, meeting place, meeting place, meeting place, the place par excellence to encounter the presence of the risen Christ. But we mustn't linger for long, because as soon as we recognize him here, he slips from our sight. And so where the Son of Man is, well, it's also beyond these walls, including in some places and people that might not occur to most folks as favorite hangouts for angels. Before I sit down, let me leave you with this. I know of a church in the U.S. Midwest where the officers were debating whether or not they should join several other congregations in supporting a local health clinic for migrants. The clinic had been established for the families of migrant workers because health resources in this larger society were insufficient or not available or burdened with red tape. And in the debate, one of the officers spoke very forcefully against supporting the clinic because, as he put it, many of these people are illegal aliens, and so we would be supporting illegal activity. But they're people, said another one in the group, and they need medical care. Back and forth went the discussion with lots of passion, no resolution. Taking a vote that evening would have been bitterly divisive, so the meeting was tabled till the next meeting. On the following day, the pastor of the church called up the man who had objected so loudly in opposition and made a date for lunch. And during the meal, the pastor asked him if he'd be willing on the way back to work to stop with her for a little bit and to look in on the clinic just to see what it was all about. The man agreed. And when the two of them arrived there, they found a waiting room at the clinic that was bustling with activity, full of pensive young mothers and squirming little children. So they sat down to observe for a few moments. And a nurse appeared at the door. She called this little 4-year-old boy to come back behind the door, and he got up and started rubbing his arm where he anticipated he was about to receive an inoculation, and he disappeared. When he came back out, he's still rubbing his arm with his lower lip sticking out and is barely holding back the tears that were forcing themselves out of his little eyes with a will of their own. He looked around the room, but he couldn't spot his mother. She had taken the other child to the washroom. So he looked around the room again for what he thought might be a friendly, comforting face, and he spotted this man. And he went over to the man, and he got up on the man's lap, and he rested his head upon the man's chest. And the man, first a little awkwardly and hesitantly, but then very willingly, wrapped his arms around this fellow little human being in need. And in doing so, he was amazed by his own spontaneous compassion. Almost as amazed as the other officers of that church were the next month when he made the motion to support the clinic. If there be angels about, you can be sure they're lurking for a reason. They're a sure sign that the Lord is near. And if you want to get in touch with the holy, the spiritual, the presence of God in life, you need not get in touch with angels as if they were the source. You just need to turn up where angels turn up, and then simply do what angels do. Worship and witness to the God of life, and to the one who is our meeting place with God. Who knows? It may come to pass that when you show up somewhere, people will find you to be sure signs of God's presence too. I must say, I pray I pray that we will be this for Chloe as she passes through the pool and takes her place with us at the table. And I pray that she, along with us, will learn more and more how to be signals of God's presence to the world as well. Saint Michael and all angels. Perhaps I'm starting to get it now.